here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
A lot is women who struggle with vaginal dryness causing pain. So maybe you could talk about what's behind vaginal dryness and what might be able to help someone increase the lubrication or.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the autoimmune piece, there is actually a condition called Sjogren's that, you'll see all the time that, it makes your mouth dry, it makes your eyes dry, but it makes everything dry. And so vaginal dryness should not be ignored. And if you are not postmenopausal or postpartum, your doctor shouldn't just write it off as like, this is just an issue with your hormones. It might be, but it's important that they take a full look at your body. And that means just going through the systems and understanding everything that's going on. Sjogren's is much more rare when we compare it to menopause. Menopause, like we're all going to arrive there. And it is in a low estrogen state that the tissues no longer can create sufficient lubrication. However, in saying that, if you find that you are engaged in, any kind of activity that you feel like should be signaling sexy time to the nether regions, and they're just not getting that memo, there is a phenomenon known as arousal nonconformance, which you are very familiar with, in that there's nothing wrong with you. It's just, your brain's like, yes, it's go time. And your genitals are just like, I'm confused. Where are we at? I say in the book, like, I think I phrase it as like a lube-free bedroom is where good sex goes to die. There's a lot of stigma about like, God, I saw this awful TikTok video where this man's like, like basically if she's not getting wet, she's not the one. And I was like, you're not the one.
Lord.
Oh my God. Like, what is happening here? But also I'm like, it's not even, that's like, there's so many ways that men really are telling on themselves on the internet of the jokes they make. And after this book comes out and people read it, they're going to know how little these people know about their body. And I'm hoping they will never feel shamed by men like that again, because really they're just telling on themselves that they don't know anything about how the female body works. But back to the estrogen piece, I do want to talk a little bit about that because you can experience vaginal dryness. So postpartum and postmenopausal, those are two common times that we expect to see that. You may experience that as early symptoms if you are over exercising, under eating, and heading your way towards functional hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is where you lose your period. And that can be stress related as well. So it's commonly the calories in, calories out paradigm that people are pushed into of like, just restrict and overtrain. No, actually, that doesn't work for the female body. It never did, it never will, and it should just go away. But with that, it can be an early sign that you're heading towards that, your estrogen starting to go low. It can also be an early sign that there's issues with ovarian function. So you could have primary ovarian insufficiency, like going down the road towards that. And why I bring those things up is because there will be other symptoms that go along with it. So not just vaginal dryness, but there's usually also tissue changes. The tissue can become red, irritated, and they feel like it's shrinking. Things are getting tighter down there. These are symptoms that if you're in your 20s or even 30s, your doctor may be like, no, because this is what we see in postmenopausal women. But because of your hormones, you could be experiencing that. There are also women who experience vaginal dryness because of the birth control that they're using. And fear of pregnancy will shut down sexual desire for a lot of people. So it's important to have a means for pregnancy prevention. And the solution there may be using more lubrication. And so in all of these, you can use lubrication, right? If we're having sex, if the dryness is uncomfortable, vaginal moisturizers that you can be using. Checking things like your vitamin D levels, making sure you have enough vitamin D, bringing in vitamin E, even vitamin E suppositories can be helpful for helping plump up that tissue and nourish it. These kinds of things can be really beneficial. And if you're starting to experience things like chronic yeast vaginitis, understand that could be related to estrogen issues as well. Estrogen is interplaying. So there's a whole estrobolome. I talk about this in the book. It's kind of nerdy, but It
We're here
interplays
for
with
it.
your gut. And with that estrogen, it's helping the tissues produce glycogen, which is a sugar that helps feed the lactobacilli in the vagina. And the lactobacillus acidophilus, they're keeping things acidic as a vagina should be. And so with that, those estrogen shifts can also be lending itself to issues with yeast vaginitis. And then not to mention itself that like yeast infections, BV, these, if you have infections, you can be experiencing vaginal dryness, and you might be like, I'm having, discharge, but then when I go to have sex, like things are not right. And so when in doubt, always get these things checked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex Love Psychedelics.